Live.
Welcome, everyone. This is the Ends Justify the Memes, the show where the lowest of the low, that is the most wretched of wretched and deplorable to end all deplorables. Two heterosexual Christian males from the American South talk about culture, philosophy, history, health, and what it means to be a man in the 21st century. I'll be your host, Bill, and this is my co host and producer, Tank. So crack open a beer and lend us your ear because the ends always justify the memes.
Woo!
Yeah? What
Ah,
are you drinking there?
this is
What's that, Modelo?
no, this is Corona Premier.
Oh, Corona.
It's like the Michelob Ultra of Corona. It's got like 2 carbs or something in it. It's kind of gross actually. not
Mickey Ultra's not bad. It's not terrible.
yeah, but it's not good
uh,
either. Like
yeah.
it's not bad. It's
Yeah.
not good. It's just kind of is what it is. But I don't know. We'll see.
When I go back to drinking at the end of the month, we're going straight PBR, bud. I was telling my dad actually. My dad was telling me that Hams isn't that bad, and I was like, it's really cheap, so I'm afraid to try
Yeah.
it.
It's like PBR is like that kind of that I guess like working blue collar beer. And then Hams, and then there's Black Label, which you never see, but I found it in a bar, and it all tastes like PBR. I mean, it's all the same shit.
Well, Hams is like $3 a 6-pack, so I might have to switch to that.
Bro, what is it? Genesee Cream Ale is like $12 for a 30 pack.
I don't even know what that is,
Oh,
but I know that I pay about $5.50 for
Yeah.
a 6-pack of pints of PBR at the gas station a mile down the street. So why not?
Yeah, I mean, how
You know?
cheap? How cheap are you trying to go with this stuff? You don't want to. There's a certain wrong you don't want to go below, or it's just going to be garbage.
Well, I really like High Life as well. And don't get me wrong, I never have been much of a piss beer drinker, if you would. When I was young and I would drink, I always drank like Yingling Lager
Yeah.
or MGD. I always drink stuff that was a little bit German beers. And I used to drink IPAs just because they were high test, but not necessarily because they're very good. Actually, are. We have a local
Right.
brewery pretty close called Cushwall. They make really good
Right.
IPAs that actually are very fruity and juicy tasting, so they're nice. But Cushwall is an exception. I mean, I don't live too far from Flying Dog either. Like 30 minutes or something, and that's the stuff I can get at the gas station.
Yeah.
And for $10, get pretty hammered on a 6-pack if that's
Right.
what I'm looking to do. But I don't know. I'd rather just like drink the lighter beer because I feel a lot better the next day.
Yeah.
And but what I was saying though is that not MGD, High Life, I found just tends to give me heartburn. I tend to feel nasty the next day. So I've switched to PBR. It's really interesting because I used to be a big beer snob, and now I'm like drinking the cheap stuff.
Same.
So,
Same.
things you learn when you get older.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, guys, with that little, rant of nothing, we started a little bit earlier here today. Um, we're going to talk about some commie stuff here in a bit, like what's new. But first, let's get into the meme cast news.
And we got some memes.
All right, so we have any Jimmy Buffett fans out there? If you like some pina coladas, getting caught in Ukraine, when your dad's in the children, and you're into cocaine. Except for now, Biden's apparently into children, or sorry, Hunter's into children too.
Yeah.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, I just saw that on the old Twitter a little bit ago. This meme's solid. I like this one. It's got a nice play on words. It's a throwback. This is a good meme.
Yes. My wife showed it to me, and I was like, I already saw it. I already saw it. It's already going. Already using it for the show. It's funny because actually, I think she sent me one I meant to grab and use for the show, and I can't even remember what it was. But no, it's funny though with all this stuff with Hunter because right now, the left is like, oh, Russian conspiracies, there's no intelligence agencies. Yet the FBI has the same data. I think it was who was it? I can't even remember now. So someone like in the NSA or something was like, there's no data saying that the CIA was saying there's no data. This was Russian misinformation.
Right.
And now Giuliani's turned this over to the New Jersey State Police with this potential implication of pedophilia.
Yeah.
So, and I hate to sound like a libertarian, a 14-year-old isn't, I don't really consider that pedophilia, but
Right.
it's still pretty creepy and inappropriate.
Yeah.
So, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It's not like he's
Um,
20. You know. It's
yeah, yeah. He's in his 30s or something.
yeah.
So, anyways, next meme. This is Hunter and Joe and dude, where's my laptop? And this makes sense. I mean, Hunter's cracked out, and I mean, what has Joe got going on upstairs? So
Um, why is why is Obama the dog though?
I don't know, and I don't care. Mm.
Yeah. So okay, tell me what you really think, because I've kind of went back and forth on this. Do you really think he left the laptop there, or do you think someone planted the laptop at that laptop fixer place?
I hate to be like milquetoast Tim Pool, but as Tim Pool has been stating, Occam's razor,
Yeah.
and that he was probably cracked out. He's rich. He probably didn't care, and I believe it. Like, why? Look, man. I mean, I've had some experience with substances, and I've definitely drank a lot in the past, and I've blacked out before. I mean, I'm really not into heavy drinking or any of that kind of stuff, but it happens. You know, if you're smoking crack all the time and you're trying to get your fix or whatever other drugs you might be on, you know, you're banging your dead brother's wife and getting strippers pregnant and other things like that. You're probably not making great choices in life, and I think he just didn't care, didn't think about it, didn't think it would do anything or show up anywhere or wouldn't matter. I think there's a lot of hubris with these elites. It's the way I see it. And Hunter, I don't think considers himself that, but he knows he's privileged because of his father being a senator and then the vice president. And like I have mentioned before, if I recall correctly, people were talking about Biden's net worth when he was becoming the VP or when he was nominated for the VP, and they're like, or when he was running for president at the time, maybe is what it was. And he was like the only person who wasn't a millionaire on the ticket. He was worth like $700 million, or sorry, $700,000, not million, $700,000. So that's not bad. Don't get me wrong, but not a multimillionaire, not enough to pay $3 million in taxes last year. So where'd that money come from? I really don't know that Joe's been making speeches all over the place where they're paying him lots of money, like the Clinton Foundation.
Well, the idea that anyone's going to pay anyone that kind of money for speech anyway, like $250,000 speaking fees, that nothing that anyone says is that damn important, to pay that kind of money.
Oh
So
yeah,
yeah, so
right.
so I mean, anyone who's making their living off of speaking fees, I think is corrupt automatically.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
it's a prestige thing. I
yeah,
mean, generally speaking. I mean, I will say this: like, I went and saw Jordan Peterson live some years ago, and I went ahead and I guess it was about 2.5 years ago because shortly after I met my wife, and I went ahead and got VIP tickets
yeah,
because I wanted to shake the guy's hand, get a picture, all that kind of stuff. And I think that was like $250 a ticket.
yeah. But
But
that's also kind of like going to like it's kind of like paying for a college class. It's like you're going to go hear something that's that's somebody's whether you agree with Jordan Peterson or not. Like he's a smart dude and he's got smart things to say. Joe Biden ain't got shit to say.
right,
Obama
right, and
doesn't have shit
Peterson,
to say.
right, and Peterson talked for like 2 hours. I'm a
Yeah,
fan. No,
yeah.
I'm not like saying I agree with everything he says either, but I'm a fan. I've watched all of his lectures. I have both of his books. Um, y- you know, I much of what Peterson said had started saying was stuff that I had been saying for years, but Peterson, like he often would say, help me articulate it better. Cause he did, he put
Yeah.
it in a nice, structure in a package and put a bow on top of it. Um, People who are atheistic or leftist, they don't get what he's saying because I don't think they're creative. I don't think they're artistic people. And he talks about that because if you're into Jungian psychology, you have to have some sort of creative side to you. It just doesn't tend to work with people who aren't very open. Um, so, but in any case, for me, it was worth it. It was just like it was a cool thing, and
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna see. Maybe I'll get to ask him some questions. Dude, talk for 2 hours. I got in a Q&A afterward for over an
Yeah.
hour with like 50 or 100 people or something like that. And it was a cool little deal. And then my wife and I went down to the Silver Diner afterward in Arlington and ate some good food too. I had a lamb burger because they're the bomb.
Hell yeah.
But
Okay. All right.
all right, so let's go to the next meme though. It says nobody can screw up presidential campaigns better than me. That is Anthony Weiner, of course. But Hunter says, "Hold my crack pipe."
Oh. Well, here's the thing. All right, so full disclosure, I have to. I identify with this picture of Hunter Biden because I feel like that's going to be me in like 20 years, like exactly that picture. I think I'm halfway there already. But I'm not going to do crack. I promise. I'll pick a better drug. Like mushrooms or something.
I like how Hunter's all totally bad and hard, yet he's got like a little bit of a gut.
Yeah.
And Anthony Weiner's totally ripped, but still looks like a dork.
Yeah. I mean, dude, don't underestimate the dad bod. Like, chicks like it.
I mean, I've had my phases between six pack and dad bod, so I don't know. So let's go to the next one, which is apparently this happened right after that meme because it says, "Look who decided to come out of his crack den."
I just don't get like being that rich and be like, I'm gonna do crack. Like, I would be laid up in Panama somewhere, like doing a bunch of like high grade blow and like hanging out in whorehouses if I'm gonna be that kind of guy.
Yeah, well, I guess it's the. I mean, really, crack and powder cocaine. There is no difference other than delivery system.
Hmm.
Crack just allows you to smoke it, but I would think that there is a less of a purity test when it comes to crack.
Oh yeah,
I would,
yeah,
it's
that's
more
the
likely
thing.
it's dirty. I would think.
They're very much the same. Like, I'm not gonna say that they're not, but you look cooler doing one than you do the other. Um, we've all seen Blow, with Johnny Depp, and no one was smoking a crack pipe, and everyone looked fucking cool. So, I mean, that's not a lesson for life, kids. Don't don't do a bunch of cocaine and try to import it and get arrested. But you get what I'm saying. You know, you know the thing.
I mean, I will say this. I've known people who do cocaine, and they tend to be a lot better off than people that shoot heroin.
Yeah, for sure.
That's
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. In any case, next meme from Mr. I believe this is G Prime 85. I can't remember the artist's name.
Something
We've seen him.
Alex. He's got a Greek name. I can't remember what it is either.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
does. It's like it's not Galapagos.
Alex.
It starts with a G, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not even gonna look it up because I don't
Yeah.
care.
Okay.
Anyways, it says, "Hark! The Archduke's son hath brought great shame upon us. Verily, I doth witness the prince betting. Yon wench smoketh crack and accepteth bribery, all in his father's name, and then instantly murdered.
Yeah.
These tidings have been debunked." And of course, this is what's his name, Jack,
Jack Dorsey.
and that's right, and Data.
So it's funny, like sometimes I listen to podcasts when I'm going to sleep, and I fall asleep with the podcast on, so I've got kind of this playlist, and sometimes here recently I've been waking up to that episode of Joe Rogan where Tim's on with the JJ and Jack Dorsey, And if
Yeah,
you go,
yeah.
if you go back and watch that episode with all the shit that's transpired this week, I mean, they sounded ridiculous back then, but they sound even more
I
like depraved.
Dude, I saw a clip just a week or two ago pop up of just a little clip of them talking about the Proud Boys versus Antifa,
Yeah.
and the JJ going on about how, well, Antifa, well, Antifa's not really an affiliated group. And Tim's like, I can show you their websites and how they organize on and then they're like, well, the other thing is that the Proud Boys were listed as a terrorist organization by Homeland Security. And it's like, no. Tim's like, no, they weren't. That was fake news. And he's
Yeah.
like, but you know who is? Antifa. And she's like, really? They are? And he's like, yeah. And guess what? I can still go on to Twitter and get on Seven Hills Antifa
Yeah.
like that.
There's this one part where like Tim just like busts her ass wide open, and she's like, "I really appreciate the feedback, Tim. Thanks." And like, that's all she says. I'm like, what the fuck? Oh, you guys.
Well,
Are...
then we have Veritas releases here recently. And then last night on Tucker Carlson, I don't always watch Tucker, but now and again I'll turn it on, watch a couple segments, and he had somebody come from Google, not through Veritas, talking about how there were Chinese nationals controlling the censorship. And
Yeah,
like
probably.
Chinese nationals controlling the censorship in Google in America. Like, come on, folks, wake the hell up.
Well, if it's any consolation, Chinese actually isn't that hard to learn. So when they take over, you'll be able to assimilate pretty easy.
If you say so.
All right, next
My
meme.
daughter's doing Chinese in school, but yes, next meme.
Okay.
Next meme. It says, "Look, no, I can't. Joe, we've been over this. You can't suicide Hunter if I'm holding on to you. You know the rule."
Yeah, they're not going to have to suicide Hunter because, I mean, they've got the entire media establishment like backing them up. So they're most like, unless like someone gets arrested, nothing's really going to come of this. I don't think.
Well, I mean, it's Joe's son, his
Yeah.
only remaining son, and it's not going to happen. But nonetheless, a great meme. But
Oh, yeah.
what I think is going to be awesome is when Trump wins this election, is immediately afterward, after all the smoke clears or whatever, and in January-ish or whatever it is, they're going to be talking about how this fake conspiracy campaign is the reason why.
Oh yeah.
That is
Oh
the
yeah.
very reason why that Trump was elected. And if that hadn't happened, if it wasn't his fake news,
Right.
so I hope they actually try to prosecute people. I hope there are hearings. I hope evidence comes out. But since you already brought up the next meme, let's go to the next one.
Okay.
And it's old Arnie. Caitlyn, you son of a bitch.
You son of a bitch.
Get to the chopper. It's not a tumor.
I didn't realize
Anyways.
how tall Caitlyn Jenner is. Well, I guess, how tall is Arnold?
I believe he's 6'2".
Oh, really? Jesus.
He's at least 6'1".
Jesus.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, you gotta realize he was big in his day when he was Mr. Olympia and like running around like 230 or 240.
Yeah.
Lou Ferrigno like dominated him, being like in the 250s or more.
Wow.
And that's like nothing today.
Yeah.
But yeah, of course, the old Predator callback with him and Carl Weathers. Now, I brought this up because I wanted to get into some leftist intersectional feminist memes, and the next one is just tragic and horrible, but you got to laugh at it because it's so tragic and horrible. And this is I didn't confirm this because I'm not about to give Desmond some traffic on Twitter or anything, but it says, "I'm thrilled to finally break through the glass ceiling for child sex workers in the great state of New York and hope to continue our with Mama Amazing to create a better legalized world for all child sex workers. Legalized child sex workers. Love is love. Matt Pride, LBGT nonsense, whatever." I had this the other week, but there were other memes that we used, but this is just insanity. And this is, folks, if you're voting for anybody who's a Democrat, they will go this way, and they are going this way. 5, 10 years from now, you can't let these people have power because this is what's going on. Yeah, I know it's insanity.
Well, whether or not this is true or not, I don't. Like you said, he does strip, right? Doesn't he like go to
Yeah, yeah, that's already been yeah.
Okay, so I've already seen a lot of these people in this, era of, or this side of politics say that stripping is sex work. So if he's stripping as a child, then yeah, he's a child sex worker by their standards. Um,
Right, but regardless if he's having,
yeah,
no, I mean, I would agree with that though, but regardless
my
if he's
God.
having, if he's getting naked or if he's having actual sex with somebody. I mean, look, dude, he's been in little excerpts talking about ketamine and whatever else. It's not to bring this up to be like a, to have a big downer in the middle of all this, but it's just like crazy. This was just posted on October 5th. If this is real, and again, I'm not going to go check his Twitter. I don't do Twitter much. If I do Twitter, it's for news. It's to go look at certain things, usually on the ground reporting. Um, but it- yeah, it's insanity. And of course, the next thing is open bestiality and whatever else. And I know that slippery slope thing was always a big meme back in the day. Well, the right says that they're going to want this and that. And well, look at what's going on. And so I don't really care if you get your gay marriage or not, but look, folks, you got to set up boundaries, and the right needs to set up boundaries wherever you are on the spectrum of the right. So the next one, lesbian teens are getting pregnant twice, or sorry, more than twice as often as their peers. And then the emperor says, or Joe Biden, whatever you want to call him, the dark side of the force is a pathway to many abilities, some considered to be unnatural.
So wait, hold on now. Okay, let me think about this.
Teen lesbians are
So,
getting pregnant. Yes.
well, then they ain't that motherfucking lesbian, then are they? How? I mean, am I missing something? Like, am I stupid? Like if you're getting pregnant, then you got to be having heteronormative sexual relations, right? I would think. No.
They probably are. I dropped out there for a second.
Oh, okay. Um, yeah, I
That's
don't.
for some reason that's twice. I mean I got what you were saying though.
Yeah. uh, Okay. Well,
It's
I don't know.
twice on my computer's done this. I don't know why.
It's probably
Did
Jack
this
Dorsey trying
the
to
other
shut
day.
us down.
Yeah, well, look, man, there was a study done a little bit ago about the prevalence and the growing trend of people being trans
Mm-hmm.
and bisexual or homosexual, whatever, and a lot of it is social construction. It's trendy. A lot of these people are gonna grow out of it. Speaking of which, I did have some memes about Joe Biden saying that it was cool for 8-year-olds to transition. Um,
I need another beer.
yeah,
I need another beer. Hold on.
yeah. Joe Biden did say this. You can look it up, folks. I would not lie to you about such things. Um, but yeah, yeah, it's absolutely absurd. So these are bisexual people getting pregnant who are saying they're lesbians because remember, there's no labels anymore.
Or,
Men,
or
men can have periods. Yeah, go
I
ahead.
bet this is girls who make out with a girl like every once in a while at like a party and say they're lesbians, but aren't actually going to pull the trigger on being a real lesbian, and then are going out and getting laid, the old-fashioned way, and getting knocked up. That's what I believe. That's what
Well,
I believe with
look,
my
dude,
heart.
I have a 16-year-old daughter, so I get to hear about the uh the friends that she has that say that they're trans or that they're non-binary or they're whatever they are. And I've also had to go talk to her school teacher, one of her school teachers who was a lesbian that I don't care if she's a
Mm,
lesbian, but this lesbian, because she's a lesbian, decided she needed to push a bunch of Marxist propaganda in her English class onto my daughter. And
mm,
it's like, I tell my daughter she's a racist and all this other stuff. It's like, no, no, no. Like, not not the way it works, lady. Like, this isn't this isn't reality. So,
yeah.
anyways, I was very polite and nice and could have went after her harder, but yes, had to have a conversation either way. Um, let's go to the next meme though. Next meme. So everyone loves a little American Psycho, and if you recall, there is a scene in the movie where they asked Patrick, the main character, about social issues, and of course he spouts off a bunch of things in the good liberal way that he should in the 1980s, and this would be today's version. It says, "Well, we have to establish a policy for one, or yeah, sorry, abolish the police for one, slow down global warming, stop white supremacy and the wage gap. We have to provide fans only and abortions for sex workers, and oppose radical discrimination and promote civil rights, while also promoting equal rights for trans women."
Mm.
Very noble of him. Very noble. He's so brave. And the real meme, despite my dyslexia in the middle of the beginning of it, is the real gist of this meme is that he's the American Psycho.
Yeah.
So that's what's going on there, folks. And then the next one, again, I was sitting on this. I don't follow this lady, but I do follow someone else who posted this up. Daisy Keach, who is, I believe, most famous because she's got a nice butt, said,
Well, hey.
"Stop sexualizing female bodies." And then below it says, "As I post a naked picture of myself and have a fans only where I profit off my sexuality." Stop sexualizing the naked lady, Tank.
Hey, I'm just, I don't know. I don't know.
No,
I don't know.
no, you're a bigot. You're a bigot because that turns you on. You're a bigot for being heterosexual and wanting to continue the human race.
I mean, I don't
You're
know.
just gonna drink another beer.
I'm just gonna drink another beer. I don't know, bro. Whatever. Whatever. I can't with these people.
Yeah, well, here's another one. So virginity is a construct.
Oh my god.
Okay, sorry. Virginity is a heteronormative construct designed to control women's bodies. The concept of virginity generally involves penises in vagina and ignores all other types of sexual experience. When you have your first sexual experience, you do not lose anything. Yeah, you do. You lose your innocence. Sorry. Uh, the link between the hymen and virginity is also a myth. You can't tell if someone has had sex from their genitalia. Okay, like libtard. What is going on here?
Why there
When the hymen is broke, women bleed.
Why is
Like,
there a Bratz dolls in the background there?
better yet, Tank, why do you know what Bratz dolls are?
Man, I've been around. I got Toys
I
R
know
Us.
what Bratz dolls are. I have a little girl. I mean, she's a teenager, but she was once a little girl.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah. But this is this, and I do follow some of this cringeworthy stuff on occasion. I will go on a crazy website, or Instagram page or something and see stuff like this. Uh, this is all progressives. This is Democrats. I like, and I know not everyone in the progressive camp is a Democrat. I get that, but this is what the Democrats are allowing and pushing.
I the thing that I don't get. Okay, so if you want to say that just because you've had sex before, you're not a fundamentally different person. Okay, whatever. That makes sense. I don't see that point being such a big deal that they need to like write this whole paragraph about it. Like it's not that like this is a weird topic to be like really interested in.
Yeah, it could be a parody account. I do have some stuff from a parody account that's really great about feminism. You would actually like it. I'm probably going to use some of those here coming up. There's just been so much stuff in the news cycle that it's hard to get the
Yeah.
random funny stuff in, or cringy, whatever it is. Let's do the next one here. It says, "My value isn't based on my sexual history." And then please stop banning me. Posted, if a pair of shoes has 50 previous owners, its value is going to go down. It's basic economics.
Yeah, when you drive a car off the lot, the price goes down. Hate to break it to you. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, man. Like if like
Let's
look,
keep it moving, man. Says parasites don't have rights. And then by the end of her life, the average woman will have
well, I guess Bill has kind of dropped out of the call, so I'll go ahead and read this to you. By the end of her life, the average woman will have a negative physical impact of $150,000. I see a nice little chart here that shows the negative impact of a woman will have, and I guess that sort of makes the joke that women are the parasites in this particular situation. See if we get Bill back here. Oh, I'm alone. I'm alone on the pod. Okay. Give me 1 second, fellas. We're having a technical issue. I think he's working on his computer on his end, so I'll.
there, man.
Yeah, here I am. Okay, are you back? Oh, it's trying. Discord is trying, ladies and gentlemen. Will it pull through? There we go. I can see you. I can't hear you.
Hold on. You just finally came in unrobotic. Unrobotic. So you can hear me now?
Yeah, you're good. You're coming through good.
Looks like, hold on, the live stream was paused there. I think the live stream may have stopped.
It
I
shows
just realized. Good.
we're going. It shows we're still live on my end.
Okay. Well, I'm going to refresh that.
Okay.
I did realize I forgot my Ethernet cable today. I didn't even think about it.
Oh, that's okay. I read the
Okay.
meme.
Okay. So here. Yeah. Yeah. So let's keep going. Let's go to don't forget to vote because, folks, and of course, me, Facebook, 15 urinals, and are you registered to vote yet? My favorite of this is an old meme, was the one where the guy walks up and he's like, "Psst, yeah."
All right. So we're going to the next one
I feel
here.
like- yeah, let's keep moving.
Okay.
I feel like I used this one before, but it doesn't matter because it cannot be stated enough. It says Democrats then versus now. Burn down historic churches, burn down historic churches. Wore masks to hide their shame, wore masks to hide their shame. Destroy black-owned businesses, destroy black-owned businesses.
Well, but it's for the revolutionary cause, you see, so it different.
Yeah, I'm not even telling you folks to vote for Republican. Just don't vote Democrat. All right, now next we got 50 Cent. 50 Cent, he saw that taxes were high. He said, "What the F? Vote for Trump. I'm out." He's like, "Screw New York. The Knicks never win anyways. I don't care if Trump doesn't like black people." And of course, that's a bunch of bunk. But since that happened, we have a meta meme. And that's the next one. It says, "When rappers see Joe Biden's tax increase."
Yeah, I see all these people on Twitter like freaking out, like I can't believe 50 Cent has betrayed his people. I'm like, are you guys really surprised that a rapper cares about money? Like, hasn't that been the thing's like 90? Like, like what do you?
What do you mean betray your people though? Because the Democratic Party is the one who like try to keep you all from voting and being enslaved and the Civil Rights Act and all that kind of stuff. I mean, what are you talking about? Like, oh, because they give you a big handout early on, because that's really what made people switch.
Yeah.
But this is what was interesting is I took this from a guy posted this on Twitter, and this was an Instagram, legitimate screenshot of Instagram, altered photo, as if people didn't know.
Oh no.
Like this is the tech censorship supreme.
Yeah, that one's pretty
Like,
good.
yeah. And then, of course, to kind of bring it back home, we got the next one, which is a picture of Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson, both race baiters, hudsuckers, and if they didn't rile people up over race, they wouldn't be wealthy or have any money or have anything to do. But it says Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson thank Donald Trump for his private donations to several African American scholarship funds. That's right. This is the man they now call a racist.
Dude, Al Sharpton's mullet's looking good though.
Yeah, I mean he's always had a pretty good mullet. He's getting pretty old though. He's
Yeah.
lost a bunch of weight in his old
Yeah,
age.
he's looking like the Crypt Keeper now.
All right, so I got a few Halloween memes. Just a few more to go, folks. It says, "I am vengeance. I am the night," and it says, "I am the Great Cornholio."
Oh my God, we're dusting this one off. Wow.
Hey man,
Oh my God.
Cornholio.
I haven't seen that shit in like 10 years. Like I heard someone say that phrase. Oh my God, I'm old as fuck.
Oh man, my buddy and I, we do, yeah. My wife even beats the butt. It's great. It's a shame you can't watch the music videos with them anymore. Like you
Yeah.
got to go find stuff on YouTube because that was actually some of the best stuff. But next meme, mom says, "No, you can't go. You can't be Hunter Biden for Halloween."
Hell yeah. All right.
And then we got Donald Trump going as a piece of candy corn.
Okay. Do you like candy corn?
I do. It's overly sweet though.
Yeah, I like
I'm
it.
not real big into sugar.
I like it
but
too,
I
but
do.
people are like, I mean, people. I'll just say this: people are talking shit about candy corn today, and I got personally offended.
To me, it basically tastes like caramel, and I
Yeah.
really like caramel. So, all right, last of the Halloween memes, we have
So-
Joker going as Kamala Harris.
Do you know if this is like shopped or not?
Oh, her eyes might be shopped, but I don't
Okay.
think the rest of it is.
Yeah, because that, ugh, it hits my soul.
I don't think that that's shopped at all, brother. I think that she looks like that.
She's just possessed, bro. That's just how it is.
Yeah. Yeah. But the Joker will get in trouble though because he will be wearing blackface, but I don't think he cares.
He
So,
doesn't. He doesn't.
Yeah. And then to wrap everything up, I got two gun memes, just two quick gun memes. So the first one's old Ron Swanson. He says, or he's asked, "Do you have any history of mental illness in your family?" And he's like, "I have an uncle who carries without one in the chamber." I would agree. I would agree. You're not going to blow your junk off, folks. Israeli carry is nonsense.
Well, you're not gonna blow your junk off twice for sure. So you know it's only gonna happen once if it does happen, and then you're
You need
golden after
appropriate
that.
training. You need appropriate training is all I'm saying. The only negligent discharge I've ever had in my life was when I was tired and I was practicing and training to see if Israeli carry was a viable option, and then I put a round in the chamber by mistake, and that was not smart. Yeah, you might as well just have the round in the chamber all the time and assume like the weapon is loaded.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Last but not least, me checking ammo prices. Please don't be high. Ammo prices.
Hell yeah. How do you smoke crack and
And-
fall asleep?
That's what I was about to say, dude. I have no idea. No clue.
Okay.
I don't know.
And that's
But
been
that's
your...
the end, guys. That's the end of the Memecast news. On that note, as we go transition away, why don't you play the Be Right Back screen, and I'll get my Ethernet cable set up.
10-4. Hold on one second.
All
We're gonna
right.
be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Well, if the screen will play.
All right, I am back. That should be getting plugged in here. Not plugged in yet, but oh well.
Okay.
We'll live. We'll live. Switch. What I got to deal with, I get two women downstairs with
Mm.
dealing with technology. I know.
Oh, it looks like he froze up on us again. Okay.
Yep. Ah, we're plugged in now.
Okay, good.
Plugged in now.
Yeah, you froze up there for a second. We're good.
Dude, I was all set today too. I don't know why I forgot that. One little thing.
It happens,
Where is my mind?
I mean, look, forgetting an Ethernet cable is one thing. Being a corrupt crack addict who leaves your laptop full of indiscriminate information at a repairman shop is a different thing.
This is true. This is true. So, Tank, what are we going to talk about today?
I think we're going to talk about, what's going on in the leftist sphere of political discourse at the moment. I kind of follow some of this stuff on the Twitters, on the Bird app, and actually I think it's pretty interesting what's going on. We're kind of seeing a little bit of a political realignment, what they call the post left now is what they're calling it. It's basically Marxists who said that if you're going to actually benefit the working class, you can't do it by being part of the left, which is, I think, a pretty interesting place to. Of course, I agree, but also I think it's a pretty interesting place to be right now.
Well, so let's start here. The left, the right-left divide, the whole idea of that comes out of the French Revolution, and who would sit in the French Parliament. The people on the right supported the king and religion, and the people on the left were wanting revolution and atheism. And the French Revolution was the first big communist revolution in modern times, if you would, recent modern times, since the Enlightenment age. And so, what exactly are they talking about? How you can't help people by being on the left?
Okay, so there was this book that came out, I think, in the 80s, called Revolt of the Elites by a guy named Christopher Lasch, who I think himself is like some kind of socialist or leftist. I'm not sure. I listened to the audiobook recently. It's pretty good. But his one of his ideas is kind of that you have this thing called the professional managerial class. And these are your AOC types, your, guys that work for NGOs, your journalists, people that they're not really workers because they don't necessarily work for in the Marxist sense. They're not really workers because they don't really trade their labor to a capitalist. They're kind of this weird nebulous thing that in my opinion, Marx didn't really account for in his theories. And they've got a lot of power, and it's weird that they have a lot of power because, from a leftist perspective, because the leftists see that the entire working class is exploited by the capitalist class, and that's it. Where you've got these guys that's coming along, these PMCs, post or professional managerial class, and they're kind of running shit and fucking shit up. And in a lot of cases, they are directly opposed to their interests are directly opposed to working class interests. So you're seeing a lot of like weird divergence where these guys are saying, "Hey, if we give a shit about the working class, we don't even be anywhere near those types of people." Um, I forgot what we're talking about. What was the question?
Well, I was saying the left, from a traditional standpoint, the reason
Yeah.
why we talk about left right is they were the revolutionaries.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So in the United States, when the U.S. revolted, everyone was left.
Mm-hmm.
But now the right are the establishment. But I don't mean the establishment as what it has become, but the establishment as far as the Constitution, that kind of stuff. That's generally speaking. I think there are people on the right who do like the
Yeah.
establishment has become.
Yeah.
But the people on the left they're always actually the radicals.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones always trying to push the envelope. And what they've been doing, in my opinion, has been dragging the right along forever. Because the right's really bad at setting up boundaries. It's kind of like dating. It's like you got a girl, you haven't grown up, you're still a boy, and you got a girl who pushes all your boundaries and you keep moving she keeps moving the goalposts and you keep going along with it. Well, basically the woman
Yeah.
then no longer respects you and you get your heart broken, right? That's kind of
Yeah.
what happens.
It's like that. It's like what Michael Malice says all the time, that the conservatism is progressivism going the speed limit.
Yeah.
It always happens. And then you got people more like on my end that are self-admitted reactionaries who are view the not just the recent past but the past in general as being more or less better. Yeah, so it's a weird dynamic. So I think for us, people who's never really been leftists, you know, if someone if someone tells us, hey, by the way, I don't really think the leftist cares that much about the working class, well, we're gonna say, well, no fucking shit, they don't care about the working class. Most of most leftist people hate outright hate the working class. And I think a lot of people on the left are coming around to this idea. I think it's really interesting to watch. There's this pretty big Twitter account by this lady named Amy Therese, who also has a podcast that's like, it's called What's Left. It's like a leftist podcast or whatever. But she's Australian, and she's always like throwing shade at these like internet Marxists and stuff. And she even quite quotes Moldbug and stuff at them. It's pretty funny. But I can find camaraderie with some of these dudes. If you really care about the working class, even if we disagree on like Marxist theory or whatever, if you generally care about the working class, I feel like we can get along. We can have a conversation. We can go where that leads. But it's really interesting because these people that are like this, these post leftist, air quotes, are almost getting the same kind of treatment that we are, as far as like censorship and being hated by these journalists and stuff. So it's
because it's not they're not elitists.
Yeah. Well,
Right?
it's strange bedfellows that we're dealing with. You've got people that are outright Marxist and saying that all this LBGTQA bullshit is dividing the working class and isn't helping anyone, and is in fact detrimental to most of the working class interests. I feel like that's a weird place for all of us to be right now. Because 5-10 years ago, maybe less, I wouldn't have thought that I'd ever be in a situation where I'm agreeing that hard with someone who is an outspoken Marxist.
Well, I've always been I've pretty much always grown up in that leftist sphere, even though I've been more or less, I would say I've always been conservative in some means or another, and would often debate with friends and stuff like that. Um, I think what I've seen as I've gotten older is that there's so many things that actually people agree upon, but there's a narrative, and the narrative becomes black and white, and nobody sees the gray. And I think this is the problem, the very problem with identification with a certain political party or ideology. I don't consider myself an ideologue because I change my mind about things. I always have. Like I go where the evidence leads me. So for a while, in my early or sorry, mid 20s, I would say about 25, 26-ish, I really got into libertarian philosophy and I would have called myself a libertarian. And then for a couple years, I was learning about anarcho-capitalism, and I would thought of myself as really an anarcho-capitalist at heart. But by the time I got to be about 30 or 31 or so, I was like, well, that's really utopian. It's just as utopian as communism. So, and then I kind of realized, well, all of my beliefs really, they aren't any different. I'm still a conservative. I'm still libertarian leaning. But what does that really make me? That makes me a classical liberal. And so now if I say I'm a classical liberal, that doesn't mean anything to most people. People hear the word liberal and they think these progressive leftists, they think these people that are liberal with the Constitution. And so it's all, again, it's all about framing. I'll tell people I'm an independent, but I'm right leaning. And they all of a sudden will assume all these things about me. And it's like, well, I want the Constitution. That makes me right leaning. I'm a Federalist. I believe in states' rights and the rights of the people in the Ninth and the 10th Amendment. Um, I believe in a small federal government. I think that economically, I think that laissez-faire capitalism is the best system. I think that there are maybe issues when certain organizations get so large and have power and influence over people, but the job of the government is to, make sure that people have maximum liberty. Therefore, I can understand things like antitrust and whatever else if done appropriately. So I'm not so far as like the ANCAPs or the hardcore libertarians are like, no, you can't regulate anything or any of that kind of stuff. But my point is that if we quit being tribal, we can actually probably get somewhere because I'm really against police brutality,
Yeah.
but I definitely think we need to have police. And these people that are like, oh, no more police brutality, but communism. And it's like, so no police brutality except for the ultra brutality you're about to bring on everybody,
Yeah.
right?
It's funny you bring that example up because that Amy Therese girl that I was talking about, she actually had all these posts against Black Lives Matter and stuff because she's saying, or against, or at least against the abolish the police aspect. Because she's like, police protect the working class. Like,
Yeah.
people break into working class people's houses and steal their shit and fuck them up and kill them and all this stuff and set them back. So if you care about the working class, you need some kind of force to protect them. Which of course, for us is like, well, well, duh. But so.
I don't know. I'm old school. I'll take care of myself.
Oh yeah, okay. There's that too. But like this is an outspoken Marxist who views the world
Right.
through a Marxist lens, saying, "You guys are fucking crazy." So that's fun. Like that's a cool conversation to witness. I think it's really interesting, and I'm really excited to see where it ends up going. I think honestly most of these people are going to get censored in the way that right people do, and it's going to, the PMCs, the professional managerial class, are just going to coalesce with the left liberals and do all that stuff, and these guys are going to get shitted on. But they're generally smart people. I feel like most of them that I've seen, and even though I disagree with them and I think Marxism's fucking stupid, I can call these guys like these are someone I don't mind, having a conversation with. And I think
that's the
I
thing,
think they
man.
feel the same way in a lot of ways.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you can have the conversation, And not only that, but to have an honest conversation, like immediately, you're not gonna, I wouldn't be like, if I was on the Marxist side and you were talking to me, I wouldn't be like, well, Tank, you're a little bougie, you're part of the
Yeah.
bourgeoisie, and da 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 da. And most of these people have no real clue what they're talking about. I mean, I just see it over and over. They always talk about Marxist theory, and it's like, dude, you can theorize all you want. It doesn't matter what theory says. It matters what happens in practice. Of course, I'm
Yeah.
a bit of a pragmatist,
Yeah.
so um, hell, I had a little discussion uh online the other day, off topic, unrelated to working out, and someone was showing exercise progressions of how to do pull-ups. Now, I'm a little deconditioned and I'm getting back in the shape, but I really know how to train people to do pull-ups. And I used to be able to do like 30 pull-ups. I used to be able to do weighted pull-ups and
Mhm.
whatever else. So, my point being is that I kind of know a thing or two. And, I've trained people over the years, and I kind of know what works. And I also know a lot of what the literature says. And generally, when you're using like supplemental exercises, it takes a really long time to build up the strength to build up to like a pull up.
Yeah.
Versus if you just do negatives
Mhm.
or partials or isometrics or whatever it might be, you generally you get the muscle activation you need and the patterning to be able to do a pull up rather quickly. Um, and so someone said something about doing a lat pull down machine, and they gave me a study on it, and I was like, I've never seen that work. Guys used to do that when I was in the Marine Corps. Never seen anyone gain pull ups on it. He's like, well, actually, if you do a kneeling, it works. And he showed me the study, and I'm like, the people in the study could all do like 10 pull ups
Yeah.
already. So we're first off, it's non sequitur then, because you're talking about something different. Talking about people who can do pull ups and muscle activation versus people who can't do pull ups. Um, and then I'm going on about back and forth with this kind of stuff, but people just like, oh yeah, whatever. Like you're arguing out of bad faith, and it's like, dude, I'm just telling you what I understand. Like I got some pretty nerdy books on sports science
Mhm.
downstairs. you know, I've read, most people probably wouldn't know what it is, but I've read the book Super Training, which is just, it reads like stereo instructions. Trust me, it's not a fun read. But my bigger point is that I'm going to have a conversation with somebody and then go, oh, I didn't consider that in a back and forth. But often, immediately, it's just like, oh, what do you know? You don't know this. And you don't know that. My theory says this, and I'm like, look, dude, you have your theory. I have my practice,
Yeah.
and in history is the example of practice. In the case of economics, hell, I was talking to Marxists the other day, and they were I was saying something about how actually commented on someone else's post, and I said about how uh, essentially Marxism is a reversion of tribalism, and then as tribes set out to make alliances with other tribes, make peace with other tribes, commerce came about, and that's essentially all capitalism or free trade is. And then someone said, "Oh, that's just nonsense, paleo conservatism and blah 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 blah." And I'm like, paleo conservatism has nothing to do with that's not even you don't even know what terms you're using. Paleo conservatism is like Pat Buchanan.
Yeah.
Like that has nothing to do with anthropology or history or economics. Like, and then I basically just brought up a bunch of papers that just like mostly they were just abstracts because obviously
Yeah.
to get papers you have to pay money.
Yeah.
But I'm like, this is what anthropologists are talking about. This is how
Mhm.
economies develop, folks. And there's actually studies on this that within tribal units, like um, the family would take on whatever debts amongst the larger tribe.
Mhm.
So the immediate family would take that on, or it would be absolved by the chieftain or whatever else. And there was more forgiveness within the tribe. Well, that's all what socialism and communism is. And capitalism is just when you go out and you go, oh, hey, you have something cool I like. Hey, I have some money, and free
Yeah.
trade. But then
Yeah.
we get all these things mixed up too with what we now call capitalism, which I think is more like mercantilism or
Yeah.
corporatism or something like that.
See, that's kind of my issue, the Marxist framework, like I understand it to a certain extent. If I'm just being like completely good faith and just talking about the theory of itself, I think a lot of this is like a lot of politics is aesthetic, right? Like people just get like a gut feeling, and then they kind of look at these different theories and they pick one. And I think a lot of people, the people with like hammer and sickle in their profile pic on like Twitter, these are the guys that I feel like are they don't really give a shit. I don't think they really give a shit about capitalism or communism. I think they just like this aesthetic and they cling to it because it's cool. Um, and whatever. Like there's a lot of Soviet imagery that is cool. I get it. There's a reason why their propaganda works so well. Um, but they're not really looking at anything through any kind of philosophical lens. And I think the people that do read Marx, or not even read Marx, but understand Marx and actually try to apply his theories are a different group of people. I think that's kind of what these guys are. And my good faith interpretation of Marx is, well, one, this is just from what people tell me. I'm not reading that shit. I don't even think most Marxists read that shit. No one's reading 5 volumes of Capital, whatever. Fuck that.
Engels wrote all that.
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah. No one's reading that shit. I think any honest Marxist is gonna tell you he's not reading that shit. But anyway, so my good faith interpretation is you got this guy, 1800s. He sees some shit going on in the big sort of middle beginnings of the Industrial Revolution. He comes with this idea that workers are, exploited by people who own the means of production. And the only way they can not be exploited is if they own the means of production, because the capitalist class and the workers are diametrically opposed, yada yada, all that shit. Okay, whatever. And, my issues with it is that, well, one, that theory's like fucking 1860s, like it's old as shit. Like
1880s.
Yeah. Like it's really weird that a lot of these guys hold on. Like that's such an old theory that it's really strange that like these young hip people who are supposed to be like revolutionary minded are holding on to something that old. Like I feel like Ed Kaczynski has a better theory of how society works than that. I feel like anyway. So it's strange, but I don't know. Anyway, the whole point of that whole thing was that I feel there's different kind of communists. There's the guys on Reddit who argue this stupid shit and want to, they're basically the aesthetic types who argue about, say shit like paleoconservatism or whatever, and they feel like capitalism is, or their entire worldview is modeled by this idea that capitalism is the most evil thing in the world. I'm not necessarily, I feel like capitalism has a lot of criticisms to be had, but at the end of the day, I don't think it's the worst thing that's ever happened,
Well, I mean, they're framing everything in a black and white perspective. So fascism, for some reason, is capitalistic, even though it is more closely related to their ideal economic system. Capitalism is just a word, really. What we're talking about is free trade versus planned economies. There is no free trade in a planned economy. Now, you could say on a smaller scale, yeah, there sort of is, but there isn't if there's nothing available to trade, and that's what always happens. But yeah, it's just, again, they always go back, well, read this theory, read that theory. I looked down on a subreddit, basically arguments to counter capitalist, and they had this whole list of arguments, including like links to some magazine from Russia in the early 90s, after Russia, the USSR dissolved, and did not say anything they were trying to claim they were saying. In fact, denounced many of the things that had happened. They tried to say that people loved Stalin and all this other stuff, and some people no doubt did, but not after many long years of being brutalized by the communist regimes did the people have a love for Stalin. And they're not really considering the historical background of Slavic people, of Russians in general, being slaves pretty much for a millennia.
Yeah. Yeah, you got these, what they call the tankies, who are these like Soviet apologists and stuff. It's like, well, actually, the Soviet Union was good. Um, and yeah, I mean, there's a lot of arguments against that. Like these guys are like, oh well, such and such percent of Russians actually like Stalin. Well, the whole Soviet Union wasn't Russia, bro. And a lot of those motherfuckers didn't like Stalin. But even if they did, who gives a shit?
Ask a Ukrainian what
yeah,
they think about
yeah.
the Russian Empire at the time.
You can find any like what we would call anti-liberal dictator kind of guy in any country in the world. Franco, Mussolini, Hitler, whatever. Pinochet, whoever. You'll find a lot of motherfuckers that like them. Whoop-de-fucking do. I don't care. The thing that gets me is these guys in the United States that are like, oh yeah, well actually the Soviet Union's great and Castro's awesome and Che Guevara and all that. Well, motherfucker, move to Cuba. Like it's $150 plane ticket. Like if you really like it, that and I'm not even like one of these love it or leave it guys. Like I totally believe that you can criticize the United States and still live here. But if you're like, not only is capitalism the worst thing that's ever happened to the world, but actually Cuba's fucking dope. Well, dude, like go there, like go. Like I'll help you. We can crowdfund this shit.
Go on Reddit right now, and any socialist subreddit, any communist or socialist subreddit, and they are all talking about Bolivia.
Yeah.
And the election in Bolivia, and how they just elected a socialist. Now, Bolivia is not quite a great country in the first place, but the reason why South America, the number one reason why South America, all the countries in South America have struggled over the last century is because they have vast amounts of socialism involved in their government. And that also brings vast amounts of corruption.
Yeah.
And what the Marxists say is well, it's only Marxism and socialism would work. It's only that the United States always defeats them. It's the imperialist. Yet you're also Stalinist Leninites who want to colonize the world with Marxism. How are you any different?
Yeah, I mean,
how are you not a colonizer? I really like Carl Benjamin, Sargon of Akkad's thing where because I think Marxism, communism is slavery, and he started calling them slavers, and that is what it is. So I was watching a portion of his. I guess he did a live stream today or yesterday, whatever it was. I don't know. I was watching it before we went on, and someone sent in a thing talking about 62% taxes, and he said, super chat that is. He said if 100% of your taxes is slavery, what's 62% of your income taxed? And it's like, yeah, if 62% of your income is taxed, and you're 62% a slave. I think it's pretty black and white. Abraham Lincoln made the argument, and I'm not a huge Lincoln fan, by the way. But Abraham Lincoln made the argument that essentially that, if you work and I eat, that's slavery, no matter under what name it is. And he talked about it over and over again. It's one of his most famous speeches. I can't recall which speech it was right now off the top of my head. But, and again, I'm not a fan of Lincoln because I think he was very tyrannical and went against the Constitution and should have let the Southern states go. Not because I agree with slavery, but because that would have been the moral and right thing to do. And the South, I think, would have came around when they got outproduced by the Northern industries.
Yeah.
I mean, really, the reality is the history in the United States, it wasn't until the late 60s, 70s, after the Civil Rights Act, all that, through the 80s, really, it was really the 80s, the Reagan era and all that the South became industrialized and prosperous again. Before that, old Dixie was rather poor.
Oh, yeah. So just to kind of wrap up that whole thing about, so I guess the point here is that there's a lot more Cubans making trash rafts to get to Florida than there are Reddit communists moving to Cuba. But these guys on the back to the other dude, the other Marxists I was talking about, the post-left guys, they're cut above these dudes. Like they're not even in the same category. Even though I'm ideologically different from these guys, I will give them more credit than the average Reddit tanky. As a matter of fact, these guys hate the average Reddit tanky. But what I see, my criticism of this whole thing, is that it's like I said before. So let me back up. These post-left guys, or whatever you want to call them, that are Marxists but are kind of leaving the left, sort of. they're not necessarily revolutionary that I've seen of what I've been watching. They just want to help the working class, and they do think that capitalism is the problem for sure. Like, I'm not going to parse words here. They are definitely anti-capitalist, and I disagree with them a lot of that. But they do think that they're trying to like help the working class. Anyway, what are you giving me? Oh, my fiance came in here and started giving me vitamins. You fucked me up. Go get out of here. Where am I going? I forgot. Oh, so the PMC types. So you've got these guys that are post left, and they're calling out the professional managerial class. Well, what I've noticed is the thing that separates these two groups of people is that the post managerial class want a revolution because they're all baristas and they want to run shit. Is basically the way it is. They want to control what's going on. It's like I said on Twitter, no one fights a revolution to become a plumber. You just go become a plumber. These guys want to have power.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily what the working class wants. Like, most of your working class that you talk to don't give a fuck about owning the means of production. They just want to pay for their kids to go to school and have health care and have a house and stuff. So I think a lot of these guys are starting to realize that what communists have been selling isn't what the working class is buying. And that's going to have some pretty serious implications in the future, I feel like.
Yeah, well, there's a dignity. There's a basic dignity. There's a basic sense of joy, fulfillment, whatever it is, to just go work.
Yeah.
And I believe, from what it seems to me, is that most of these people are complaining about things that are actually within their own power,
Yeah.
and they want someone else to solve their problems for them.
Well, yes, but here's the thing. Let's put a little bit of perspective here. So you've got a grad school student who just graduated with a grad degree. They've got $100,000 in student debt. They've been indoctrinated in this university for 6 years or whatever. And they graduate with their $100,000 in student debt, and the only job they can find is to be a waiter at a restaurant because they don't have any real skills. Yeah, I could see this guy totally being into Marxism because they think that they should be, if they went through all this education, they should be able to control shit. They should have a nice, cushy job in some Politburo somewhere where they get a corner office and get to make decisions and fuck off. Well, that's not how the world works.
Right.
So, I still think there's a certain downwardly mobile aspect to it, but I think it's kind of what you're saying is they're kind of losing their privilege, and that's
okay. So look, that was kind of where else I was going to go with this, though, is because you did bring it up.
Yeah.
So postmodernism makes Marxism about
right
power, and isn't that really what it's about? Because these people don't feel like they have power over their lives. Therefore, they need to express power over everyone's life. So it's this idea, just on a philosophical level, that the world must conform to me instead of me conforming to the world. And I say that too as somebody who is very individualistic. I don't think that you need to conform every ounce of your life to the world, but you have to understand that you live in a certain framework, and that those are the boundaries and parameters in which you get to play in. And these people are some of them are so crazy and so nuts that they're now trying to claim that framework doesn't exist, to the point that there's no such thing as biological sex or gender.
Yeah.
And that's why this all ties in together. So you might be talking more on a technical aspect, but I always think about these things very philosophically.
Well, I think you're hitting on something there that kind of explains a lot of this. So you've got these guys at the professional managerial class types, at the grad school graduates with $100,000 degrees. All right. They look around, they look at the working class, and they're like, these guys really aren't like me. Like, your typical blue collar electrical worker doesn't give a fuck about any of that shit, right? So they're like, well, they're not going to be my ally, because why the fuck would they? Because here I am with purple hair and I care about, all this other shit. So what I need is to latch on to something else that's going to, hopefully, come the revolution, give me some real power. So this, identity politics kind of stuff, the postmodernism, the, all the shit that we're talking about. You know, so I think we're kind of seeing on the same level. Um, but yeah, like I'm looking at it from like a technical perspective. But I think it's, I think it does like shed some light on the divergence within the leftist movement that we're seeing now.
Yeah, well, like again, I mean, I always my basic belief is that it's just a bunch of elitists. Like look at someone like Voldemort, the neckbeard who will not be named, um, and how he goes on and has debates with people, and he's always so snobby, and he's always morally superior, and he's always shifting the goalposts, and it's all a matter if he is getting some sort of intellectual power trip, some sort of joy, some sort of, intellectual orgasm, if you would, over it. And don't get me wrong, I'm susceptible to this too because I like to debate, not because I
Mm-hmm.
want to be right per se, but I do like this mantling dumb logic and dumb ideas. And so I've definitely gotten people very mad at me because I've just disseminated or decimated, sorry, their their belief structure. Now, don't get me wrong, I know that doesn't change anybody's mind, but it's like, ah, haha, I got you. And I know too when they shut up or they just start name calling because, um, or they're like, "Well, you, but yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, but you need to read the theory." Okay, but we have theories about creating wormholes
Yeah.
in space and traveling to the other side of the galaxy. No one's ever done it. Theory doesn't matter, folks. Only what can be practically applied. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think a lot of people though that are on that leftist side, that's what it is. And then it's this other thing where they need to be compassionate toward other people, but they're not. They're compassionate only in their their hatred, from what I can tell. I mean, look at like BLM, and I know not everyone in BLM's or supporting the riots or something are communist, but BLM is, as far as the organization goes, is a communist organization. That is its stated goal. Well, when you burn down neighborhoods and buildings and whatever else that have nothing to do with police brutality, and you're going to tell me that that is some sort of I don't know, some sort of take some sort of tasking of the system. It's like you've just destroyed and hurt lives of regular people. They don't care. Orwell Peterson talked about this himself, Jordan Peterson, that is. But Orwell wrote in his Road to Wigan Pier that he kind of realized that it was the hatred of the rich and not the love of the poor. And frankly, a lot of this too, honestly, I think it just goes back to bad parenting. Um, in cultural as well. Like, go to college, go to college, go to college, go to college. Get that $100,000 in debt. Be told you're a special snowflake because you're in college, you're special. And it's like, well, let me tell you, just like no one thinks that you know, a woman that has slept with 1,000 men is special, and rightly so toward men as well. Um, it might be some guys that look up to that, but generally speaking, as a norm, most people don't think that that's a noble thing, right? And when you saturate college, when you saturate academia with folks who are basically of average intelligence, you water down the value of academia, and that's something else that the Marxists like to do and that they always do when they drag everyone along. And one of the things they don't understand that they're really going to do in reality is bring everyone down to the lowest common denominator. It's the story of Harrison Bergeron, for instance, by Vonnegut, Kurt Vonnegut. And I don't know, man. Like if there are people who are I don't know why they be communists, but who think that they can pull out some sort of communist thing that's helpful or useful, that's fine. I just don't see the evidence myself. I'm willing to have an open debate with them. I mean, there's a subreddit called Capitalism versus Socialism or Communism or something like that, where people do have these open debates. Um, that's actually where I talked to somebody the other day, and I'm not on internet forums very often anymore. But more or less a observer. But every now and again, I'll make a comment, and my thing is always I got to go back to first principles, man. When I say like, oh no, what well all communism is this reversion, and capitalism's this kind of evolution of society, or free markets are at least. And then right away they go, oh, you don't understand, man. Oh, that's paleo conservatism, or you don't understand this, you don't understand that. It's like, dude, like have a logical argument and show me where I am incorrect. Like show me where I am wrong. Um, please explain to me how tribal societies operated, because we have a lot of evidence. We know, look, we all live in a tribal society now. You live with your fiance. I have a wife and kid. Like, that's a little tribal, my own little tribal society. I have neighbors who I'm friendly with. I can get things from them, and it's not a big deal. I gave my neighbor a ride the other day when she needed one. So that's fine. Why can't I do that to the rest of the world? Well, because I don't know freaking everybody. And I don't know that I'm going to get anything in exchange. It's like any relationship, man. I mean, I've had plenty of girlfriends in my life. I can tell you, most of them weren't good, and most of them I was not getting the good end of the stick out of it. So, it, I guess my greater point is like I don't know what these people want, why they think their ideologies are so good, other than, to me it just seems like they like you said, they want some power and control, but also they want vengeance. That they're good enough,
Yeah,
they're narcissistic enough, and they should have all the great things, and then they need to take vengeance out on the rest of the world, you know?
yeah. Well, and that's the thing. There's a lot of these like Reddit style Marxists and stuff. They they don't give a fuck about the working class. There's a Stone Toss meme or whatever, which I know he's supposed like a Nazi or whatever, but it's like it's got a guy in like a hammer and sickle shirt. He's like I'm I'm a defender of the working class or some shit like that. And it's got a guy like obviously like a redneck dude. He's got like a Dixie flag on his truck, and he's got like a gold cross. It's like, well, put her there, pal. And that dude's like, I'm not shaking your hand. But I mean, that's the thing, is like, that's what a lot of the working class is. And if you're going to be someone who claims to be for the working class, you have to realize that that's what a lot of these guys are. Um, and I think a lot of these dudes on the post left that are kind of coming around to that idea, or maybe they already have, that that is what it is. And if they still want to help the working class after saying these guys are like that, they're salt of the earth, they don't give a fuck about theory and all that stuff, then more power to them. I can get behind that. But you're not going to see that, and those kind of guys are few and far between. It's mostly your college professors and redditors and guys on YouTube who shall not be named that that want to push this ideology, because in their hearts it's got nothing to do with theory. It's about if this revolution happens, I'm gonna get a good cushy job that I feel like I deserve. Which
But
real
don't they read, like the college professors specific, don't they read history? Don't they understand that they're the first to go? Like, yeah, I know some of them, one of them, like you're risking a really big lottery
mm,
ticket, man. I mean, like that's your life. This is a
yeah,
lottery ticket that
yeah.
is your life, that you're risking, that you'll be the guy.
Well,
I mean,
a lot of them probably
you
know it's not going to happen anyway. They're just pulling their dick out. Uh,
right, but Yuri even though like brought this up. He's like, nope, they're the first to go, and
yeah.
they'll come around. And dude, I literally saw. Oh man, I see so much stuff. I actually need to get off it, because I might be scroll through my phone for 10 minutes on Reddit, and I just see just stuff that just blows my mind. I literally saw people talking about how capitalists use 1984 incorrectly, and how Orwell was a socialist. Yeah, Orwell was a socialist. He was also warning about how far and how bad socialism could get. He fought in the Spanish Revolution. Did you know that Orwell also praised Hitler? Because he
Yeah.
did. I mean, look, guys, I saw these people posting, talking about Zemetian's We, which is this book written by a guy in the 1920s that Orwell largely was influenced to write 1984 afterwards. And the guy was one of the old Bolsheviks, Zematian, Yevgeny Zematian. Um, he or Eugene in English, but um, he wrote the book We as this Tayloristic Marxist utopia. Taylorism is this like a mathematical production to kind of thing, and that's how they looked at people. It was a mathematical thing, and if you read We, it's a really good book. But like if you read it, it's all about this guy who's a mathematician struggling between his humanity and trying to calculate everything, and um, and then they were almost talking to like how We wasn't a book against communism, and it's like the dude got kicked out of Russia because of it.
Yeah.
He was exiled, and there were actually several drafts of this book because the original draft they weren't sure if he had and whatever else. Some people read the original drafts. Like this whole thing, historically, of how this book finally came out with its current print. There was other translations and drafts back in the day, but my point is that they point to these things and they don't even. It's like they're completely oblivious. And then I see the stuff where they're making fun of people on the right or conservatives, as if the right or conservatives are completely oblivious. I'm like, I think we understand you. In fact, studies would suggest, considering that conservative people, more conservative people, conservative right-leaning people, are more readily willing to read their opposition's journalism and papers than people on the left. Like,
We
do you see that? Do you see that in what you're talking about in these post-leftists? Are they reading stuff are they reading capitalistic stuff? Hell, man, I saw a post today on Reddit where a guy was saying, coming to the subreddit, and he's like, I'm really starting to come around to the idea of socialism and Marxism. And I just wanted to ask, I wanted to know what you all could tell me about it. You know, before I'm not really settled on anything yet. And I'm thinking, dude, go read some books. Go. First thing you should be doing is reading history and economics. You want to know how an economic system works? Go
yeah.
read about it. Go read about the history of it.
No, a lot of these post leftists advise against reading theory at all. They're like they don't care, they don't care about that sort of thing. And I get that to a certain extent because it's like you got these Reddit communists that are like, oh, well, you don't understand because you haven't read Marx. Who else hasn't read Marx? The working class, and they're not going to because who fucking cares? It's boring as shit. No one's going to read that. Um, and if your entire ideology rests on the fact that one day the working class is going to come to their senses and rise up and take over the means of production, well, motherfucker, it's not happening. And you've got to explain that. If you're going to say that your shit's so good, then you have to explain why it's not happening. And of course, they have every excuse under the sun, about CIA or whatever. But really, the fact of the matter is, the working class doesn't give a fuck about that shit. And I think a lot of these guys on the post left realize that, and they're like, the working class doesn't care about, Marxist theory, and for in a lot of cases, neither do they. I think a lot of these guys are just like, look, we need to get inside blue collar jobs or working class jobs and just try to see what we can do to like make their lives better. We feel like you're getting exploited working on an assembly line. Well, let's see if we can, collective bargain or whatever to make your health care better or make sure you can get child care, something like that. And I can see that. Like, that makes sense. I think that's a lot better approach than, whacking your dick all day on Reddit and assuming that the working class is going to rise up and do some revolution, because it's not going to happen. So yeah, I mean, kind of to answer your question, I don't think those guys are in the same boat.
Yeah. Well, interestingly, I saw also. I've seen so much. I got it saved. I'm trying to get this thing together. We're going to do this segment on all minus one. Hey, I haven't mentioned all minus one today.
You're late, bro.
I know. It's not a big deal. But my official YouTube channel. In any case, one of the things I saw was this guy on a socialist subreddit going, "Hey folks, I'm looking at running for president of my town or whatever it is, my township, whatever it is that he's in." And he's like, "I'm looking at how I can get more socialist ideas into the townspeople." And then he's like, "The median income in my town is $93,000 a year." And yeah, no joke. And then he's like, "And we have a poverty rate of point or of like 1.3%, which means you don't have a poverty problem at all, except for people who basically choose to be
Yeah.
impoverished."
Like severe drug addicts or something.
Right, right. And so he was saying this, and I'm thinking, you're going to try to implement socialism and all these people who live in a capitalistic system whose median income, median, meaning that there are some people that probably make $50,000 a year there, and there are other people that make 200 or more $1,000 a year. You live in a wealthy community, man, and you're going to implement socialism into this. Who the hell is going to buy that? And then you have these people like offering suggestions, and I'm like, how dense can you be to not understand that, like, that's a pretty good income.
Yeah. So to kind of go off what you're saying here, my brother works for a residential construction company, and he does pretty well. He makes more than I do. We'll say that. He didn't have to go to school for it. He has no student debt. He's about to buy a house. They give him a company truck. He gets like free fishing trips or something 2 or 3 times a year. Granted, he's got it better than a lot of people at this company. But a lot of people still, a lot of the working class have it pretty good. I got another friend that works for the power company. He's a lineman, does really well for himself.
Dude, I had a neighbor who was a plumber.
Yeah, plumbers. Yeah,
making 70 grand a year.
Yeah, plumbers, electricians.
I had I'm about to say I had a little buddy of mine I used to work with. I roomed with for a little bit. He had a niece. He's got an older family or whatever, but he had a niece that is close to his age, our age, and was like an electrician. And you wouldn't think, because she's this little kind of cute girl or whatever, but they send her in doing industrial electrical work, and they're like crawl spaces and all because she can fit. She's making like 90 grand a year.
Yeah, and see, so you take someone like that, right, and you got these Reddit communists and these democratic socialists of American stuff. Now imagine, in your brain space here, that one of these dudes walks into, one of these Reddit communists walks into the job site of one of these guys making $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year, and goes, "Oh, did you know that, by the way, you're being exploited by your capitalist oppressors?" They're gonna be like, "What the fuck, bro? What are you talking about? like you talking about Joe over there, like the one that takes us on fishing trips 3 times a year? Like he's a great dude. What are you talking about? We're being like oppressed. Oh, actually, your material interests are in complete, disarray with those guys. That's fucking stupid. No one's gonna buy that. So like, what are you doing? And that's the reason why those guys don't go there. Now, who will buy that are Starbucks baristas with $100,000 in student loans that went to grad school for social theory or some other stupid shit.
Bingo.
Yeah.
And
so
kind of what I was talking about.
But to me, that is the major problem with Marxist theory, is that it doesn't work in today's society. Whether or not it ever worked at all, that can be argued. Those two people, even though they're both the proletariat, they're both workers, they don't have the same interests. They don't give a fuck. One person is really susceptible to this and one person is not. So what is your goal with, like, as a from a political standpoint, if you're one of these communists, what is your goal at this point? Well, more or less, it's to come the revolution. You're going to shoot all those dudes that are working for the electric company, and you're going to install all your PMC buddies as
right.
Whatever.
The problem is none of they're all so dumb they wouldn't even know how to run a society anyways.
I don't know, because you're going to need electricians, and those motherfuckers can't do it.
Right. no, it's funny because you mentioned baristas because I know someone very specifically, she's a very sweet girl. Don't get me wrong, but she's young, like in her early 20s, and is a barista. And I've had conversations with her, and she's talking about being a socialist and a Marxist, and she's like, I only make like 12.50 an hour, blah blah blah. I'm like, well, how hard is it to make coffee?
Yeah,
She's like, will you be surprised? I'm like, no, I
it's
wouldn't be
not that hard.
surprised.
I make
'Cause I'm not
coffee
a
every day.
moron.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like I go up the street to Dunkin' Donuts, and they have a revolving door of young teen kids doing it. I'm pretty sure I don't need to spend extra money for your crappy coffee at Starbucks, and for your job. But they complain, why don't I have a living wage? Well, because you're working a job for a kid. It's a low skill job. Go get some skills, go get some knowledge, go get whatever. One of the things I really screwed up on is I backed myself into a corner, having essentially um a life in doing like security military type stuff. So that doesn't transfer well to most of the world. I can keep in that field and I can get paid well, but I don't want to keep in that field. And so when you don't diversify, you don't have those things. Um, I do have other diverse interests. Obviously, I'm trying to make that into a thing now. But it's like, man, like who told you that you were going to go work at 7-Eleven and live well? Like, why is that a thing? What's this idea of a living? That's another one I hate, man. The living wage. Like, what do you mean a living wage? Like, you realize minimum wage is a hedge against inflation, and inflation wouldn't exist if we had a commodity standard. Like, that's a huge thing. I see Marxists talk about that all the time. They're like, oh, well, we have to have a minimum wage because of inflation. Capitalism inflates. And it's like, capitalism doesn't inflate, folks. A centralized authoritarian bank inflates. And that's part of your system, not mine.
Well,
My system wouldn't have that.
it's another one of those things like, okay, whatever. Let's say you do believe that shit. Oh, we gotta have a living wage. Well, motherfucker, like, stop. You can help people get a living wage today by telling people to stop going to college and getting $100,000 worth of debt. If you really care about,
Yeah.
if you really care about keeping these people from like suffering or suffering less than what they are now, okay, hey, start telling people that are thinking about going to college not to go. Or
Dude, there is a shipbuilding school in Norfolk, Virginia, that you go to school, the tuition's small, but you end up getting paid while you work because you're doing an apprenticeship. You get paid something like $15 an hour to learn how to build ships, whatever specialty you're doing within that. And then when you're done, because you went to that school and because you've done the apprenticeship and whatever else, you get hooked up with somebody who's going to hire you to build ships. And you know what you're making then? You're making like 40, $50 an hour
yeah,
because it's a very highly specialized skill. And it is crazy. I've seen stuff where these crazy Marxists are like, "Oh yeah, capitalism rose the world out of poverty. You know, 90% of everyone out of poverty because they changed the definition of poverty." Ha 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 ha.
yeah.
I'm like, they changed the definition of poverty, dude. You know what I really want to do? I just want a time machine. I want to grab everybody who says they're a Marxist, and I'm going to be like, step into the time machine to the future, to the Marxist future, and then send them back to like the 1600s.
Yeah. Well, they're not going to do that because they're LARPing.
I know.
And that's the whole thing is like there's a lot of ways to help out working. Like I feel, my entire family's working class. I feel for a lot of these guys, and some working class.
Guy. I mean,
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah.
And some working class people are in a shitty predicament. Okay, whatever. But it's one of those things like you're sitting around talking about, come the revolution, how big your dick's going to be when it comes time to help everybody. But you can help people right now. Like this whole meme about the socialists with healthcare, please. We just want healthcare. You can increase the healthcare of the working class today if you can convince your Twitter buddies to tell everyone to stop drinking high fructose corn syrup. There you go. That's one way to help the working. That's one way that help
Well, I always tell
healthcare.
people. Usually, I never get a response back, but I'm like, yeah, I do. I try to do this, and that, or I've helped people. I've done this or that, or I ask for personal help. I'm like, what do you do?
Yeah.
Well, I shouldn't have to do it. The government should do it for me.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you're an asshat. I
Like,
mean, I don't know what to tell
like,
you.
have you ever even donated blood? Like, you know,
Yeah, yeah, right. Like, what have you
yeah,
done to improve
yeah,
society?
and
And
that's why I can't take those you know Reddit guys serious. It's like what like
I
whatever.
don't either. I
Yeah,
mean,
you know,
it it drives me nuts because I know that, like, I saw other stuff, people talking about being, it Reddit being a dumpster fire, and I know Reddit in general is very
yeah,
left. Um, but when I like staying informed, so I'm going to go in the deep dark
mhm,
corners of the web. Like, no different than if I would look at the white nationalist or whatever else. Now, there's far left of them, and a lot of people are kind of playing with those ideas and whatever now today. But um, I think a lot of that is a reactionary movement, frankly, um, and it's a reactionary movement to being told that all white people are evil, white heterosexual males are evil, from rampant uh, degeneration or within the media, and we see all this. Well, cuties is a great example, right? Degenerate, like absolutely degenerate nonsense. Well, we're exploiting little girls to show how little girls
yeah,
are are exploited. It's like, okay, so you're just an idiot who did something idiotic and reprehensible, and yeah, and in any case, we're seeing this fall of society. It's also the same reason why someone like, Jordan Peterson got really popular real quick, or how people are returning to religion, very much so, because for a long time that was not a thing, man. I mean, and don't get me wrong, like you or I, we live in more rural areas. There's more of that, but I think of people too who are the Marxist types that are guys like Carlos Maza, whose family is super rich and he's
yeah,
super rich, and
yeah.
yeah, like what I mean, I just don't get it.
Yeah, anyone who's going to tell me that that guy is a better friend to the working class than basically Tim Pool or anybody else is fucking no. I'm not taking that serious. But again, he's that type. He's a PMC.
People living in a house that I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure he bought with some money, and he pays them on top of that
yeah,
for helping him
yeah,
produce content. I mean, like that guy is
yeah,
obviously doing far
yeah,
better than any
yeah.
Marxist, right?
He's an elite who's upset he's not running as much as he should be running. Like no, no, no. I'm not. Again, I would like to see that motherfucker walk up to like a construction job site and start spitting off some of that, Marxist rhetoric. And listen to these dudes be like, "What the fuck? What are you talking about?" Like, no one who works for the power company or the railroad is watching Carlos Maza in their spare time.
And right now, all the unions are supporting, seemingly, they're all supporting Trump.
Oh yeah,
The
and
Boilermakers Union, Biden said supported them, and then it came out like the next day and said, no, we didn't support him.
yeah, and even if they're not supporting Trump, they're not Marxists or communists or anything.
Right.
Uh,
Um, and something else that's not talked about a lot by those types is a lot of working class people do stupid stuff with their money.
oh fuck yeah,
And
yeah,
I'm guilty of it
yeah.
myself.
God no.
I mean, a lot of working class people, they want to go to the bar, they want to drink beer, they want to spend money on girls or do whatever they do, and that's fine. That's part of freedom, man. You implement Marxism, you don't get that freedom. That's not
Yeah.
going to happen. I can guarantee you that. Um, in Russia, from what I understand, one of the reasons why I don't understand quite why all the women are so attractive, other than maybe they're thin because they don't have as much food available. Um, but one of the big things is if you're a guy who has a really good job, like it doesn't matter if you're good looking or not, women will just flock to you. And that seems to be common in certain societies, um, that are post-Soviet or post-communistic or post-socialist. I mean, from my understanding, a lot of it's that way in Latin America too. It's why you have women from the Philippines, for instance, um, coming over and being brides in the United States. because there's a lot of poverty there, and so they want to find a guy that can help take care of them. So, and that's a legit thing. And I actually know a couple that's like that. They lived here for years. Dude retired, and then went off to go live in the Philippines on his retirement because you can live like a king. But she also wasn't like just like looking for some rich dude. He was a blue collar guy, worked for the sheriff's department, that kind of stuff. Uh, you know, but he was a good dude, and the economic opportunities were way better here in the United States, and yeah, that's kind of like how those traditional things go. And the Marxists, they want to, I don't, or the leftists, they wanted to destroy all that and act like that doesn't exist, and then be completely miserable constantly all the time. So
Well, like I said, I think it comes down more to a psychology than anything else. That's why I don't give a shit about the whole theory stuff. Like whether or not Marx ever had anything good to say, I don't really give a shit. If you want to use his whole like labor theory of value as like a lens to view the world, be my guest. I think it's kind of stupid. I think yeah, I think everyone has their preferred models for what they feel like explains the world. I think Ted Kaczynski's is a lot better than Marx's myself, but it just that just kind of is what it is. But these guys, they're not even really into the theory. They just want to run shit. They feel like their psychology has led them to believe that they're better than their lessers, and they should be the ones in charge. And that's the last motherfuckers I want running my country is people like that for sure.
yeah, well, I usually call them hypocrites too because
Yeah,
they all live under capitalism, and much like you said, they won't go like all these people right now. You're right. Could go to Cuba. They could go to Venezuela.
yeah,
They could go down to right now Bolivia, as it has just elected a socialist president, and they could do all that. And then they also, at the same time, they won't, but right, but at the same time, they go, well, you're just capitalism's colonialism, and you stole all the resources and blah blah blah. But isn't, and I know I already brought up the point, but isn't the point of communism to colonize the world and make everyone a
yeah.
communist?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, yeah. I mean,
So
that's
it's a bunch of hypocritical nonsense to me.
yeah,
And as far as Marx goes, man, Marx was a dark dude. He wrote some really sick, dark poetry, atheistic, part of the bourgeoisie, never had a job in his life, by the way. His parents paid off all of his debts. It's funny to hear Marxists talk about how so and so had a job. Well, they only have a job, or sorry, so and so started a business. They only having a business because they got $1 million loan from their dad. And it's like, your idol, Marx, only had a job because of his daddy.
yeah,
And
yeah.
you
Man,
know,
I don't give a I'm not. The day you catch me reading anything about Marx, like seriously, is call the police because something's up. Like something's went wrong. Like I don't read a lot of theory in general. Like I don't care that much about it. If you can't sum it up in a tweet, then I don't want to hear about it. But I recognize that we all have our lenses that we look through the world. A lot of people got introduced to Marx for whatever reason, and they hold on to him. And I don't really give that much of a shit about it. I think they should read Ted Kaczynski instead. But whatever. Um, but yeah, I mean you're right. Like the dude was totally a fucking bourgeois fuck himself. Um,
well, no, he's an adulteress. He had a
mm,
son, an illegitimate son, that was never claimed till later. It wasn't until Engels, after Marx had died, and Engels had brought it up, I think, on his deathbed, and then Marx's daughters both committed suicide.
mm.
Um, I don't think that was a good dude. I
Oh,
just don't
I
think
mean, yeah,
anything
probably
was.
not. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, um, I I
he's like
find it hard to believe.
he looks like Santa Claus, but not as jolly.
Well, supposedly
Uh,
he had horrible genital warts as well.
what the fuck?
Yeah.
No wonder he's so pissed off.
Yeah.
Like, okay,
I mean, Yeah,
Um,
or boils. If they weren't warts, they were boils. There was something like that.
yeah, I mean, hell, okay. I mean,
So
I don't know, like I said, those guys, the Reddit tier dudes, I don't really know where to begin or end with that whole outlook. But I
not
am
just
is
them, man. It's not just
yeah,
them because you have
yeah,
other people
yeah.
elsewhere saying the same thing. Oh, speaking of which, AOC is a gamer now.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
I don't know how she's doing that, as she's running Congress at the same time,
Because
because
that's what
she is the
because that is the ideal job for the PMC, the professional managerial class. They believe they're owed some like living where they get to like not actually work and do anything but still get paid and get to run shit. That's the dream. That's it, bro. That's what it's all about.
well, having met staffers and like actual congressional staffers or Senate staffers, and having them tell me they make $70,000 a year and they don't even go to work most
Yeah.
of the week because they don't have anything to do.
Yeah.
They don't even show up. That tells me that there's some big problems within the bureaucracy of the system. But yet she the really interesting thing with her is that her whole thing when she first came to Washington was like, I don't have enough money for an apartment down here. And it's like, well, what do you mean? You can get an apartment all over the place. I know what um my wife's place cost, and it wasn't that expensive. And I know a lot of people that live in DC. Now you have to have roommates, but what is she thinking? Oh, I don't need roommates, blah blah blah. And then it came out, well, she does have $50,000 in her savings account. Now I don't know where that big 50K came from, but eh, like, what are you talking about? And her degree in economics, maybe she could be mad about that, not using it, but I don't think anyone's going to hire her to be an economist.
Well, that's the thing, I remember that when she was bitching about not having enough money to live in DC. Well, here's the thing, you know, she doesn't have to be in government. She can go work for the power company via alignment, like she showed. I don't see like putting all this effort to choose. Like you want to run shit, and you're just mad because your desire to run shit. Assuming this is true that she actually doesn't have the money, your desire to run shit is in conflict with your ability to pay for the lifestyle required to run shit. Well, don't
Well,
fucking run shit.
right. She literally has handlers and
Yeah.
she did have the money. That was nonsense. Of course she has the money now because they get paid $172,000 a
Oh
year or
yeah.
whatever it is. Um, and again, DC's not as expensive as people think. Now, if you want a really posh place, it's going to be expensive.
Yeah.
And trust me, it is. My mortgage was what my wife was paying for a room in a house that she shared with three other people. So don't get me wrong, that's expensive, but it's not insanely expensive. AUC could do that, but she needed to have the nice posh place that oversaw the Potomac River or whatever it was. And she needed certain special things. And the reality is that when she made that comment, it was probably her handlers that did it. Like, we know that she was auditioned. They did an audition for people, and they're like, "Oh, here's this girl. She fits the profile. She's got the personality. She's part of the movement." And of course, you mentioned being in power, and you remember when she was doing some talk, and she's like, "I'm the boss. I'm
Yeah.
the boss. It's me." And it's like, no, being in Congress does not mean you're the boss. It means
Yeah.
I'm your
Yeah. You're
boss,
technically a
and
public
you listen
servant.
to
Yeah.
me. I mean, that's how it
Well,
works.
I'm just gonna say this. All right. AOC complained about not being able to afford an apartment in DC, even though she's one of the most powerful people in the nation. Ted Kaczynski lived in a cabin with no running water, or electricity. Who are you gonna listen to?
Well, I think that was Ted's fault too. I mean, Kaczynski is, I mean, regardless of what he was right about, he obviously had to be unhinged. I heard about stories about him just going to his like neighbors' garages and stuff, and like randomly grabbing their stuff and
Yeah,
working on
probably.
it. It's probably how he got caught.
Yeah.
So he's basically like building bombs on his neighbor's little work bench
Yeah.
out on his like
Yeah.
little carport or whatever.
Hmm.
That's 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 like a little silly. It's a little silly. Um, but I don't know, man. We can probably wrap it up at about there, unless you want to talk any more about you were talking about these anti left commie types, because
Oh,
I don't even know where to go with that.
no, I was just kind of saying that it's interesting, and I think we're on the verge of like a political repolarization. Um, and I just
Realignment.
yeah, sort of thing.
We're already polarized, but
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, so I just kind of brought that up because I think it's interesting to see what's going on with
Well,
intra left politics.
right. I would say that the between the Libertarian Party, the Ron Paul movement, in the early 2000s, and the Iraq war, the Afghan war, and then the coming of President Trump. I mean, I could even say Obama, because Obama was seen to be he was going to be this great hope for so many people, that he was going to change everything and make everything better. And only the most ideological, myopic, obtuse people believe that Barack Obama was a good president, because that man made the economy sluggish and suffer along. And again, only the most like ideological, myopic, obtuse people believe that he made the economy good, because we know the numbers. And you can read whatever articles you want that say otherwise, that try and confuse you with stuff. We know the numbers. Jobs were not picking up as much as they should have been. It took 4 years for that even to happen. And the minute Trump came in and deregulated, everything went boom. And Trump is changing the right slowly, but he is changing it. And I think there's a lot of young blood in the right that's good. And again, I'm never going to endorse a party versus another per se, um, because I just parties are not a thing that I think should be part of our politics.
Right.
Coalitions, perhaps, but
Yeah.
parties, no. I think parties just make things tribal and polarized. So, um, but I will say that I will disavow Democrats and progressives
Hmm.
and communists and all that stuff. Um, as much as I would disavow anybody who would be right wing, socialist, whatever the hell that is, because that doesn't exist. But those white supremacist types and all of that, like I think what we're seeing is something good. What I am worried about though is where we're going, because until we get our monetary situation
Hmm.
straight, we're headed toward a huge collapse. And if we keep listening to the world organizations, the the World Economic Forum, the World Bank, the WHO, obviously the UN, we keep playing ball with all that stuff, it's going to be really, really bad for America. And of course, the rest of the world too. But if anybody holds on, man, I want America to hold on, because we're the only ones that are really going to have the balls for it. Although I will say this. Apparently, in Russia, gay marriage is never going to happen.
Wow.
Apparently, it was
Okay.
banned the other
Hmm.
day or something like that. The potential of it, it was voted against at least. And again, I don't care like what you want to do in the privacy of your home. I don't care if you want to have health care for somebody next to kin, however you want to list it. I just want the government out of that crap.
Yeah.
And my argument would be, by seeding that, saying that gay marriage is a thing per the government, you just gave the government more power.
Hmm.
And screw that. Marriage is a religious thing. It has nothing to do with the government. So, um, I don't know, man. Parting shots, parting
Yeah.
shot.
Okay. Well, that was good. We covered some stuff. I guess we can probably call it good there.
All right, man. Well, folks, thanks for not watching tonight. Um, hopefully we get some viewers on the replays. You can check us out over on replays at YouTube. That is The Ends Justify the Memes. Of course, right now we're live on DLive, ends_justify_memes. And we do this every Wednesday at 7 p.m., whether you are listening or not. I might actually start doing some stuff on the channel on YouTube by myself without Tank, probably pre-recorded stuff. But also, you can check me out if you're interested in listening to a fanatical, classical, liberal, laissez-faire, capitalist, free marketeer, federalist, constitutionist, minarchist guy. You want to listen to some of my hot takes on various things or whatever they are. I'm over on YouTube at all minus one. Tank, you don't have any side projects, dude.
Nah, man. You can subscribe to my OnlyFans.
Tank has an OnlyFans. He's not gay, but he watches gay porn while he's on OnlyFans. So
just for the articles.
It's for the articles, right? And guys, I don't know. Aside from that, hey, remember, the ends always justify the memes. Tank, hit the outro, bud.
I'm talking about all the way to the top, yeah. Unjustifiably in a position that I'd rather not be in. But the cream will rise to the top, oh yeah. Macho Madness, yes, got more to offer than President Jack Tunney